the company during work hours. So I guess, has everyone been here once before?
Me?
Yeah. Okay, so the rest. We will be hosting a lot more Ruby on Rails, so do come more often. And next time we'll actually be bringing in food, so be here on time. Yes, that's mainly what I want to say. So, speaker can use us a bit. Yeah, thanks for presenting. Okay, speaker. No. Because it's probably on the way for a while.
Password của hai bên chữ sóc đúng không?
Okay, hi everyone. Let me see. My name is Do. I actually proposed to talk about this topic about 2 weeks ago when I started working on some project. And it turns out that Rails, especially PostgreSQL, has done a really good job with multi-tenancy management. So it actually turns out to be a quick talk today, rather than a really long one, because like they solve all of the painful tasks. Okay, so a bit about myself. I'm Tuhan. I'm working at a software development company in District 7. Used to be based here. I'd rather not talk about it because information now. So a part of my work is to work on a inventory management application that you can say as an SaaS. So for those who are not familiar with multi-tenancy, oh wait, have any of you worked on multi-tenancy before? If yes, can you raise your hand? Okay, so it's like 90% of you haven't worked on multi-tenancy applications before, right? So for those who are not familiar, multi-tenancy refers to a software that allows many tenants to be together. So simply put, if you have a inventory management software, that means you have to allow hundreds and thousands of customers, which are companies and organizations, to sign up. And together with that one big institutional sign up, you have to allow them to have, in this case, inventory management, to have a set of product to manage, to have a set of warehouses to place this product into, also to have a set of product movement, which in business terms is like when you move a product out of a warehouse to another warehouse, or when you send it out to delivery to the customer, etc. So product item movement. And on top of that, you need to allow the customer to have a set of users that they allow to be given access to the system so that they can do actions like create, edit, update. You also need to permit them to some specific actions, like for someone, maybe a contractor, he's only allowed to see something, not to edit or to create or to delete something. So that is also necessary in terms of user actions, user permissions, user roles, admin, staff, contractor, also user department, accounting, marketing. There's no reason that you should allow someone in accounting to see stuff related to marketing, or operations to see stuff related to marketing, etc. So, so I'm working on something similar. There are sets of institutional customer, and under that, sets of data like products, warehouses, product item movement, user group, stuff like that. So there comes a need of partitioning this data into the specific group of info. So the usual way I'm doing with Rails is that associated models, like there's a company, this user has a company ID in the model, and this product has a, let's say, company ID also in the model. This warehouse also has a company ID field in the model. This product item movement has a product ID, and for some case, if you want to query about a company that owns this movement, you have to go back to product and then go back to the company, and that is really painful to a thought emerged that this is something that we should not be doing, querying associated objects like that. So here comes the topic of multi-tenancy, especially my opinionated ideas and sharings about multi-tenancy with Rails and PostgreSQL. So there is this really interesting concept that...
Can I have one question?
Sure.
Okay, so still not really quite sure what is multi-tenancy, but what my idea is like I am landlord, I have many land, and I can like get people rent my I don't know, like my tenant, my apartment, whatever. That's idea kind of. You have the whole ecosystem that you separated into small chunks, that each individual user have their own ecosystem that do not affect other users. Is that the multi-tenancy?
Well,
I am not sure. Yeah.
Keep on that. Well, the term ecosystem. Well, in
like for example, Heroku, you are logged in with your account. You can do a bunch of stuff like install your Ruby gem, whatever you want with your own, your own stuff. Is that doesn't affect any other user?
Yes.
Yeah. So is that a multi-tenancy or?
It is.
Okay.
In some ways of speaking, of course, I'm not working at Heroku to be sure if they're structuring the data and the application into multi-tenancy, but it seems to be the ideal way to do so. Someone can always have that company ID column in the model, and that's good to go. But for people who is not really comfortable with doing so, multi-tenancy is a way to do it. I'm not sure about Heroku, but that is a similar concept. And I mean, they supposedly are doing the same thing.
Okay.
So simply, not so simply put, you have these specific models, users, products, permissions, roles model, that is specific to a customer. And you don't want that to be in the same table with other customers. So let's say if you have a product called smoothies, and another one has a small product called sneakers, I think personally there's no reason for you to put the two in the same table called product. Ideally, the same table called product, but in two different, tenant schema, which is another concept I'm going to talk about. So forgive me, but this photo is kind of misleading, but I cannot find any photo on the internet which reflects the same thing. So let's just visualize that you have 4 customers, 4 companies, or 4 organizations, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 of them are at the same time managing similar stuff like products or warehouses or item movement. So these are the same for 4 tenants or 4 customers. It's just that we want to partition data into some specific chunk of, on the back end to manage it easier, to import, export, to give the data for the user to backup or to restore. Or on ourselves, we don't have to do this company.products or company.users at the same time for the whole application UI. So that is the way it is. So with Postgres, they come with a concept called schema, which is totally different from the schema.rb that you usually see in your Rails config folder. So schema, usually speaking, it is the structure of some tables. But here with Postgres, schema means schema. So you have this one schema that have 4 tables here, users, products, warehouses, and stuff like that. You have another schema that also have the same tables, but they are not related, they're separated. So let's say I have to be this schema, you have 5 users, 5 products, and you have this stuff. I have Silicon Tray on the other hand to also have the same user but with 10 users and 50 products, for example. So these two on the system level are separated. And if you do a query like product.on on the application, it's gonna just query for you the database belong to some specific schema. That seems kind of abstract. So let's just okay, so here is your Postgres instance, PostgreSQL, and usually I'm doing it this way. I have a user table, I have a product table, I have a warehouse table, and that is the normal way of doing this. So with schema, it's a bit different. It's like you're putting all of these tables into folders and replicate the folder for actually different tenants. So let's say I have and the way Postgres structure thing is that it put these 3 tables into the schema and replicate it for the whole database. That is the structure. I know it's boring, but it's the best way I can say to visualize stuff for you. So if you are working with browse and you want to, let's say, allow the tenant to have some custom domain, like the way you're doing with Tumblr or blocks. Like if I go to this, supposedly I must be ported to this tenant. And the same applies for Silicon Tray or Project Ladder. And when you set this, the home database will work in the schema only without touching out the schema. So it's still a bit abstract. But let's just visualize that when you're in the application controller, this is before. I used to have something called before filter and then authenticate users. But in this case, it's something the same. It's another before filter, but I'm going to set current tenant. And what this does is that I have this tenant model in the database, which doesn't belong to any schema that I'm talking about here. It belongs to a special schema called public. So with the with the schema public, it is allowed to have different tables to other schemas. And this is where you set application settings or the info that belongs to some tenant, so that place from you can port it to its data. So in your applications controller, you set some current tenant by doing this. For us, we do it this way. We do a current tenant, and then tenant find that. And this is how we port it to the tenant. Because in the tenant model, we have domain, which is string, also i. We also have schema, which tells where to point to when you want to query the user domain. So this is string, this is also i. So when you go to application controller, you are finding the tenant that is ported to the domain that you use to access the applications. So in reality, you can access the server application using these domains. This domain or Silicon Spray also SAS.com. It's the same. It's still targeting to the server applications. The difference is that here it ports the domain to the tenant and sets it as the current tenant. The same as it sets to the current user or device. And then Postgres comes with a really handy feature called search path. I'm really sorry because I thought, like the majority of the people are working on this thing, so it's like talking about something that you guys already know, so I'm just going to be really brief here, but it turns out to be so not like that. So here I set a current tenant, and then I need to tell Postgres that, hey, I have decided that from now on, what you're working on should be ported to that tenant only. Like when I visit the URL siliconsray.awesome.sas.com, then all of these data about the users, about the product, about the warehouse should only belong to that schema, and you should not touch other schema that belongs to other companies like Project Line or other companies. So here I'm telling Postgres to switch to that schema. And yeah, this.
Can I have a quick question?
Yeah.
So the end is basically you're scoping the request to the schema only, basically, right? So any request you would do afterwards would be scoped to this single schema, basically, right?
Yeah.
But it's still possible to, like, when you in the app, it's still possible to do a query on all data.
Yeah.
So it's like an addition on top of that, like a schema. So you can use it as like security, isolation of the data, but you have to opt in to use it basically.
What do you mean by use it as a security?
So picture like an admin interface for you as the owner of the awesome SaaS site, and you want to have an overview of every user business system or every product business system.
Yeah.
So you can still do these sort of queries when you just skip the setting a schema. Or is it like, okay, once you use that schema, you have to use it all the time?
It actually isn't working like that.
Okay.
So if you are visiting a domain and you port that domain to the tenant that we found in the system, and then we port our little query to that tenant, that is one way. But for admins, we set the schema to public, which means we are not, isolated into any specific schema to the whole system.
Yeah, so you have access to everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I forgot what I'm going to talk about this. Hey, so there is one special schema called public. This is where you place the application settings like tenant info, system configurations, and then the following schemas, other schemas apart from public is available for use, and this is where you put all of these user permissions, roles, department, stuff like that there. So I was talking about provisioning before. Basically, there are two steps taken initially when an application receives a request from a domain. First, it port the domain to the tenant, and second, it switch to that tenant schema and tells the whole applications that, hey, this query about product user permissions should only be in the schema. So that is for provisioning. I think that's pretty much all. For the rest, those query is the same as the usual Rails application. It's just a bit different initially when you want to port it to its schema. So for testing, well, for unit testing, it's the same, isolated unit testing. So there should be no extra means that you need to do to make it work. But for integration testing, it's a bit different. For us, we use Phantom.js and Cucumber for integration testing. And initially, we need to tell Cucumber to use a localhost domain because the default domain for Cucumber is www.example.com. When you run the task, it will actually query that domain. I don't know, I'm not sure. But yeah, there is one more step to be taken when you want to set up an integration task, and that is all. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I thought it's going to be a mess to work with this schema-specific topic, but now with tests, it's really easy. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's on, you know, a really initializer level, and there's a lot.
So but the Postgres derived gem is handling this responsiveness, or
There's a gem for that called apartment.
yeah.
It's like you're sending these people into each apartment and you manage it separately. And it's really easy, like, that's why I say with Rails, everything comes in really easy. I haven't been working with MySQL or other frameworks, but I thought that it's quite complicated to do it. So, is it?
To do what?
To do multi-tenancy?
With MySQL?
I don't know. Do you have something
the-
like schema there?
No. So I mean, I do sometimes it's like a multi-tenant app, but I don't know. Then I just use scoping like from an
So how do you do scoping though? Like, do you still have that company ID field in the market?
Yeah, pretty much. So so I was like, I mean, sure, based on the domain, I loaded the account or whatever was a top-level object, and then from there I only had to go through all the way and whatever you want to patch, and it's possible, but queries can be complicated.
Yeah, I agree. It also gives you a lot of headache when you want to do some backup to some specific schemas on it. Like for me, there is some problem with this company, and I want to replicate the data to do it locally. But there's no way I can do it with a big universe model like that.
Yeah.
With schema, I only need to export it and import it into my local database. It's easy like that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And actually, it's today that it's the first time I hear about that feature that this exists. So I had no idea that it's something is existing. But I mean, sure, it solves the end. It solves most of the problems. So you can skip like authorization more or less entirely. I mean, maybe depending on maybe if you want to have like what you said, like the accounting should not be, see what's the market is doing and vice versa.
You still have to create a usual way. This is
Yeah, sometimes it's yes, but you don't have to take care about like, hey, I don't want my customer A to see the stuff customer B.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that's quite handy, I think.
Any questions? Okay, I guess no. Okay, I guess that's it then. Let me know if you're working on something similar, like the resource on multi-tenancy is a bit scarce on the internet. So
Yeah, I think there's a book actually. I'm not sure if it's really nice.
Rail specific.
in Rail.
Yes, I
And
think.
you are written by Ryan Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the lamest book I can read. Like, he talked about model validations and subscription, and it is
Okay.
like he doesn't give it the second part when he wrote those things.
For my experience, the book is not so good. A lot of bug and not correct code. I follow the book along the book. It's wrong in many places. But the idea good, but the code is not good and the book is not good. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read it, so but
I have a
other
question.
pages. Yeah.
Can we set we have a too many streamer, and can we set the per streamer different user and platform from the problem we actually in the realm?
I don't actually get it. Different password.
Yeah. In the realm, we have the database configurations, but I think if more security, if we can set the disable for the SQL shell Saigon streamer, it's a different user and support for SQL. And for the data is different.
Well, that is on the database level, right? And I mean, if you want to be secure, there are tons of ways to be secure. I'm actually not really sure about how to do those security stuff though. I'm talking about application as a, logic level.
As feature is caused by loss database. Maybe it's separated by path. Multi-tenancy is separated in different paths.
Yeah, sure.
Is if the system scale up, so I mean more user, more company want to register. So how do you manage that case? I mean,
I think it's a different story. Is that what are you talking about? Is the problem of scaling?
yes, yes.
It's pretty much different from what we talking about right now. You mean like you have multi-tenancy and you have just so much users, so many things going on, and how you want to scale up the
Yes, like base channel.
Well, talking about scaling up, this is, as you talked before, this is like, I don't know, but maybe some formulas created within Postgres whenever there is a new schema added, right? So talking about scaling up, for me, for our system, we have about, actually our testing system, we have about 700,000 entries. And when you export it, it's only like 9 megabytes in terms of data. And in terms of query, data like RAM or time or stuff like that, it is, the job of Postgres, and they're doing a really good job with that. We would rather now, dig more into that to improve it, because the query, usually from 20 to 15 milliseconds for one query, we think that is a good one. We tried with some big data like 700,000 entries, and it works really fine.
my last company I work for, they have 2 million entries. Pretty good, I think. So,
Have you considered like the other approach, like just scoping it by IDs? Like, have you looked into this, or?
Yeah, as I told you, I have a pretty much, opinion
Yeah.
needed about this one. So using ID to me seems not really the ideal way, scoping using active record like that. I think
It works quite well. So as long as your associations are not like very deep, the graph is like, I don't know, like only 3 or 4 models. At the most.
we have like 60 models currently. So
Yeah, it's not like
using company ID or something like that at first seems to be the easy way, but then it's quite hard to manage. So this isn't, any simpler except on one level more, scoping everything into some company. But at least keep your piece in mind.
And what the main reason you choose this approach to use schema? Just because we want to split different table to smaller one to improve performance? Or, yeah, what the main reason you choose this approach?
As I told you, this is highly personal choice. Like, why do you choose Rails over, what is it, Python? Django. Yeah. Is it working any better, or since you like the syntax of Ruby and Rails way of working, you choose for the path? So we explore two options: the one with the ID column and the one with the schema. And we like the schema way so much better.
Yeah, it's so nice. But what if you want to add another schema? Something like another company comes up and wants to add another schema?
It happens. India, which is quite fast. Like, we have that 60 models that has to be replicated all over those new schemas.
Yeah.
And all those migrations that has to be done with that, which is like a lot. For one tenant, it takes like 3 to 5 seconds to create those things. And
It needs the engineering effort.
no, it's actually quite easy. I want to show you the code, but I haven't talked to my boss yet, but it's like 5 lines, really.
It's great, of course, but it means that whenever someone comes and asks you, there is some engineer to come in and execute the code. It's not just if we do something with the approach of simple, company ID and just another company register and you do it.
What do you mean another engineer coming on board and asking about what?
Because we need to run some script, right, to create this schema and import all the data whatever in there.
Yeah, which is Ruby code.
Yeah, it's really simple.
Yeah.
And it's about SQL.
Okay, I'm going to type in the comment here.
You can use the rect class with the parameters. For example, you have an interface, you input the name, new schema you want to create, and then you click the button, you create a background job, and then call rect class with the parameter, the schema name, and then we will run the script with the mini name input. We will write for you, this is the script that you said.
That's true. I think we do that.
On the first one, you need to spend about a little time to create an automatic tools. And another idea I have discussed before about is it better to use the request hot or the request or supplement to check out the domain. You can get the supplement directly out of the request by calling the request or supplement to return an array of supplement.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it is better than the request of cost, because if the request has no subdomain, then the request of cost will still work. For example, API.disable.com and disable.com will work this way. But in disable.com, if you call the request of subdomain, it will return an empty array, and you have to check as in the subdomain.
With what? www.example.com?
Disable.com and API.disable.com.
Well, with that root domain, we doesn't allow it to be created like with any tenant. So we port it to the front page, the home page. With www, we also port it to the home page. So any
So you force them manually to compile.
Sure, we have to apply some validations for that.
Okay.
But it only allows alphanumeric letters. Yeah. So, but when someone who is a bit hacky type in something like star.domain.com, I mean, on the DNS level, it doesn't allow to do that way already. So, yeah. And talking about creating all of those migrations, I remember no such things when I created a new tenant. So it seems like Postgres is also doing that job. doing those migrations.
Something like company schema.
Yes, I think so. Because I haven't done any migrations ever, except the first time I installed that on local machine.
I have a touch on schema, so I don't know.
Yeah. So so yeah, I think we don't have any background work tasks ever. There are only two things that we did. First is apartment, database, and then you create a schema. And then second is to have a schema. And yeah, that's all. And then the system is up and running. Maybe there is some background magic.
Yeah, and then put the database that's related to background job to return stuff into the user. And you don't need actually you don't need to put it into background job. Just my personal stuff.
But are you using PostgreSQL?
Yeah, I'm using PostgreSQL.
And with Rails?
Yeah, using Rails also.
With the apartment gem? With the
We
apartment?
don't use dependency. Just use it as one domain.
Okay. We use this one, which is like, I don't know.
Yeah, but we use we do it all direct task programmatically by passing into parameters.
To do what? To do what?
We have two database to synchronize with others
Oh, so you
on different tables. So you you want this table name to be synchronized, another table name of another database, put it to the name and click go.
Well, that's fancy. We have never done that before. Why do you separate the database though?
In the future, there will be multiple one.
So yeah, that is
Yeah, one is already running. One is already running.
Okay. Are you running on Aeroproof?
No.
These system admin tasks have been my interest.
Have you tried to run any kind of report in your data?
Import?
Yeah, so then you want to do some comparison between the data. Have you tried to do that? So you mean that you need to run the query in multiple schemas?
Pretty much, yeah. If, initially there is some base data that we want every tenant to have, and that is placed in some combat into some model already. Like, we want this to have the same admin user with that password so that our admin can log into every tenant. And that is some model combats. But for later on, when we want to revise something system-wide, we have to switch to those schemas and do the job. Which, again, amazingly is done so fast. Like, this is the only thing that you have to do, like stories, schemas, do schema, and then you switch to that schema and you do the job. And yeah, that's all. A week ago, I had to do some admin work that I have to calculate the total amount of every order on the system to see if people really like that feature or not. And whenever someone renders the admin page, I didn't do catching, so I want to see how it responds on the system level. And it doesn't cost much RAM, and it doesn't take long to do so.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And you made something like if you want to find user, if you pay how many schemas?
Why would you want to do so? I mean, initially we said please business logic to be specific, and we don't want any data to interfere with other data.
Yeah, that's good, but yeah, the need price it depends on using it. Yeah, if you keep it confidential, it's separate between the tenant, okay. But who knows? Later on, you need to do some reform or whatever you need to do.
Well, tell me some query and we can talk about that more, since it seems so wrong to search for one user here and one user there. To me, it seems so wrong to do so. Okay. I guess that's all. Nice talking to you. Thank you for listening.